Younger the man. It's not easy to speak to an empty church. However, we are still joyful for this blessed feast, the Feast of the Cross. And definitely we should meditate about the cross, and the gospel of tonight began by Jesus saying, then Jesus said to them, when you lift up the Son of Man, then you will know that I am He. I am He. I am He means that I am the Lord. I am Yahweh of the Old Testament. So, but this will be known only when Jesus is crucified, and definitely He will resurrect from the dead, and He will ascend into heaven and raise us up with Him. The idea of lifting up and Jesus being lifted up, it was used on, I think, the most important passage of the whole gospel, of the whole Bible. If we asked what is the crucial, the most important verse of the whole Bible, the most that everyone should memorize, or actually the most are memorizing, even if someone doesn't memorize a lot of verses, what is the one that would everyone remember? I think the verse of John 3:16, which is, I think if you are here in the church, I would have asked you to recite it with me. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. You can see some of the deacons are reciting it with me. But before this verse, Jesus spoke of His lifting up, of Him being lifted up. This is John 3:16. 14 and 15 He says, and as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in Him should not perish, but have eternal life. And then John 3:16. This idea struck me today, when, especially with what's going on in the whole world, and everybody's anxious, everybody's worried. I mean, there is an anxiety about make the ends meet to be able to find provision for everyone. I mean, there is many people who will be affected, their jobs, their income. So a lot of anxiety when this will end. The church that we are not able to come to as usual. I mean, all of that make people very anxious. And I think this verse struck me today, that we need to look up to the one who was lifted up on the cross. And that's how we have peace. We can have comfort. We can have relief from all those anxious ideas and thoughts of the news that are coming all the time. And we want to go back to the analogy that Jesus used of Moses when he lifted up the serpent in the wilderness. When we go and read this passage, it's on the book of Numbers, chapter 21. Then they journeyed from Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom, and the soul of the people became very discouraged on the way. So they needed to go on the wilderness. And the people spoke against God and against Moses. The people spoke against God and against Moses. Why are we going through all of that? I mean, the big why. I mean, we are all suffering from why. Why what's happening is happening. Every time we are confronted with this why, when we are faced by tribulations, by hardships. So the people said, why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? Again, the why. The why question that we all struggle with and wrestle with? Why have we brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water. Even though there was food and water, he was taking care of them. He never left them out. They never asked for anything, and he didn't provide it for them. But that's how, in their negativity, in their anxiety, in their lack of surrender to him, they started to complain. For there is no food and no water, and our soul loathes this worthless bread, the bread that he was giving them from heaven, the manna. So the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many of the people of Israel died. So many died because of the fiery serpents. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, "We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord that he take away the serpents from us." So Moses prayed for the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Make a fiery serpent." So like a shape of a fiery serpent. Make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole. So set it high. Set it high. And set it on a pole. And it shall be that everyone who is bitten, when he looks at it, shall live. So Moses made a bronze serpent and put it on a pole, and so it was. If a serpent had bitten anyone, when he looked at the bronze serpent, he lived. Surprisingly, when the people asked Moses to pray for them, and Moses prayed for them and prayed to God, the serpents weren't killed. The serpents weren't gone. What happened is that the serpent and their bites didn't affect them. So God instructed Moses to make a bronze serpent, to lift it up high. When the people would look to it, even if they are bitten by the serpents, the fiery serpents, it would not affect them. I think this is, and Jesus used this analogy to say, that's what's going to happen when I'm going to be lifted up on the cross. When you look at me, you will have salvation. And people, or the church fathers, when they meditated, St. John Chrysostom, St. Ambrose, when they spoke of this passage and the passage that Jesus referred to it in the Gospel of St. John, they all said that the bronze serpent is a reference or as a symbol of God who became incarnate and who accepted to be lifted up on the cross. And Jesus said the same. But, I mean, when we look to him, we have immunity. I mean, now that we know that the epidemic or the pandemic that's going on this world and make the whole world is tumbling, this is going to be ended as soon as a vaccine is gonna come out. When we have a vaccine, we will have an immunity, then we will not be affected with the virus. The virus will be there, but will not affect us. I think looking to God is the vaccine. Looking to him, praying to him, and put all our prayers, our pains, our worries, our anxiety in front of him, and we will. I mean, things can be. I mean, the problem wouldn't be solved, but we will have immunity. It's not the immunity of the body, but the immunity of the soul. What's more important for us is that we don't lose our faith. We don't lose our peace. We don't lose our reliance on God, who can make us go through this hardship that the whole world is going through. I think one of the big things that people keeps talking about and that even the church, the safe haven we are always go to, we are not able to go to. But I think maybe this makes us think of what is the church for us? Yes, we might not be able to go to the building because we are not allowed to gather with large numbers on one place. However, we think of the church that's the house of God, the house of the angels, and God is with us. Emmanuel is with us in our midst, and He will never leave us. Someone shared with me a very nice quote, which is, I think, very relevant to the situation we are in, from a very nice book which I highly recommend for everyone to read. I mean, we have time. We should make use of our time. And reading is a great thing. The book is called The Gift of Oneself, and it's translated into Arabic. بذل الذات. Abuna Bshoy Kamel published this book many years ago. It's written by, I think, an Eastern Orthodox or maybe a Catholic priest. His name is Father Joseph Schrevers, and it's a very, very great book, a good book, highly recommended to be read. Whoever wants to read it in Arabic, بذل الذات للأب جوزيف شريفرز، صدر من كنيسة ماري سبورتنج. أبونا بشوي يهتم بنشره. And in English, The Gift of Oneself, by Father Joseph Schreffers. So he says, oh yes, it is true that I aspire to receive you in Holy Communion, to possess you in my heart, to let myself be loved by you and loaded by your benefits. So I aspire to eat your body and drink your blood every day. But I desire this only if it is your good pleasure. I desire this if it is only your good pleasure. And if it were necessary for me to live in the desert, as did the hermits of old, without enjoying the happiness of receiving you every day in communion, if it happened that I couldn't take your body and blood because you wanted me to be in the desert like the hermits, it might be that I should die of languor and of desire. Languor means tiredness. I mean, when I feel bad, or of desire, because I want something but I cannot get it. I can suffer from that. I'm going to be like dying to have the body and the blood of the communion. However, but no complaint, O Jesus. No complaint. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to surrender myself. If it is out of my hand, that's why, if you remember what I said yesterday, that there is a difference between someone who is negligent of coming to church. The church is open, the liturgy is there, but I don't come. And there is a difference between someone who is longing, but he cannot. The effect and the presence of God is there, even if you are at home. The efficacy, the work of the bloody and the sacrament, the sacrament, the mystical work of the sacrament is working in you, even if you are not able to take the body and the blood for circumstances that out of our hands. So he said, but no complaint, O Jesus, should escape my lips, and no regret should be formed in my heart, for I should know that you had done it. You had done it. We surrender to you. I think it's also a reminder of the message that the book of Ezekiel, the people who attended the retreat where we studied the book of Ezekiel, and same message was communicated by the Jeremiah as well, the prophet, that the people were thinking God's house, the temple, can never be affected, can never be destroyed. And God is there and protecting his house. The problem, the people were away from God. They weren't repentant. I'm not saying this is the case. I'm taking the analogy here of just that we are, even if we are not go to the church, we are members of the body of Christ. We are never separated from him. And actually, maybe it's a way that we can think that our relationship with God, it's not only dependent on coming to the church. And again, I'm never putting a lower value on coming to church, but I'm saying if this is out of our hand, we are never separated from God, and this is what we should do. We should have a church in every house. I mean, maybe it's a revival for the house, the church that should be in each and every house of our homes. So the message of Jeremiah and Ezekiel that the temple, it might be destroyed, but if we repented, even if we are in exile, even if we are away from the temple, God is going to be with us if we are repentant. God is going to give us the new heart and the new spirit. I think this is what we need to work on. One other thing I need you to think of during that tough time: how can we help each other? How can we help our community? What should we do to each other to support each other in every way? By a nice word, by a nice thought, by a meditation, or by supporting financially, by food for each other, for the community. I think we need to think of that. I think the church was always a lighthouse in the world by stretching the hand of help, the hand of support to the world. I don't know exactly how can we do that. I feel crippled, but maybe we can think of ways. How can we stretch our hands in this tough time where we can say the church loved the world, the church is willing to help and give what she can give to each and every one. I think we need to think of that, and while we are celebrating the Feast of the Cross, we need to raise our hand to the one who was crucified on the cross, and we know that he grants peace, he grants comfort in this tough time, and we're going to go through it. And I hope time is always if we have been here in this world during, let's say, World War II, I think it couldn't have been worse than now. I mean, it has been worse. It should have been, I'm so sorry, it should have been worse than now. And it stayed for 6 years. Something, again, affect the whole world. Maybe now the problem is we are following the news. We are following how many confirmed cases, how many deceased. We know of a confirmed case on this place and in that place. But it has been very tough time. And it ended and things changed. Nothing stays as it is again. But the point is, what did we benefit from that time? I think this is the thought that should stuck in our heads and we should wrestle with, and we should never have this time pass without getting a benefit, a spiritual benefit. And the best narrative we would hear after this passes, that people would say, I can never forget this time when we as a family were gathered around our Bible. We were reading. We were following the Vespers from our home. We were feeling very bad not to be able to be at church, but we prayed. We shared tomorrow we're going to have a liturgy. We're going to have the procession. We're going to have the prayer, and everything is going to be there. Follow it, but with prayers. Don't turn it on and do something else. Maybe you can pray with the church. And maybe it would be the most fervent prayer you have prayed. Again, the time would pass, and you might say, I've never seen God and experienced God like that time. And this is very common. And I think I told you stories when the explosion that happened in Alexandria in 2011, and how the people they were praying. I know people would say that we weren't hindered from the church. We still went to the church. It's a different context, but the message is, how can we benefit from the tribulations? And the answer is, lift up your eyes to the one who was crucified, as Jesus said. When he is lifted up, like Moses lifted up the serpent, you will be granted salvation and healing, and glory be to God.